But that is kind of a perfect segue into our first topic. It's a beer topic, and it also happens to be a question from, once again, one of our biggest followers, Kit. And it is, what are our favorite 3 beers each since starting the site? Now, I'm going to admit right away, it was way too tough for me to only come up with 3. And there's a lot of beers I did try before starting the site that I would have put as my favorites. But I'll once again let Jim start with his, and then I'll follow up mine since I know I'm going to talk a little more.
Oh, crap. I should have done some prep work.
It's Jim.
So, basically, hey, I had band practice tonight for the first time in 4 months, so I'm doing this right after.
Dead.
Suck my ass.
Always an excuse.
Nothing. That's goddamn right. So, I guess I'll start with an easy one, which is probably my favorite beer that I've had so far, and that's the Dissonance 2014 Reserve. It's aged in, I think, whiskey or brandy barrels. It has a nice, like, cherry mix with, like, real earthy tones. Shitload of alcohol, but it's incredibly smooth. I don't know. I bought it on a whim because we went to... There's a place near us called the Iron Abbey, which is a beer garden, a restaurant, and it's next to a Brazilian steakhouse, which is always nice. And we went in there. I went to the clearance section, as I normally do. I took a flyer on it. Shut up. I'm a cheap bastard. But no, I took a flyer on it, and it was still like $40, but it was fan-friggin-tastic. And they come out with a different reserve every year. You actually got me for my birthday, the 2016 one, which I haven't broken into yet, but can't wait to try it, and it's a solid brand.
Okay. Well, that's one. Yeah. Jim's not good at prep. Well, just think about
hey, Brian,
it.
Why don't
doesn't
you do one of
necessarily
yours?
have to. Okay, I'll go through mine while Jim thinks and looks back.
All right, actually, no, I've got one.
God.
I've got one. Now I'm not looking at my damn scores because that requires more work. I'll actually go with Rudolph. And I'm not saying maybe in the terms of as an absolute favorite beer of mine, but one that really, really surprised me. I was expecting just some cheap, shitty knockoff of Mad Elf, and it's got that nice, what is it, would you say, more peppermint flavor?
No, it's cinnamon. It's all
peppermint and cinnamon?
Yeah, it tastes like Big Red, and it's for a winter warmer to have that much cinnamon. It's very powerful, but it's damn delicious.
Yeah, and it's weirdly refreshing, almost. Like, it doesn't sit as heavy as you would think it would.
Yeah,
so it's got a nice it's got a bite to it without being overly cinnamony. It's not like you're drinking like a Big Red chewing gum. It's actually got like a nice bounce of flavors with the cinnamon.
Yeah, I'd call that, for anyone who likes Fireball, which I'm sure most of you know what that is. It's kind of like the beer equivalent. Like, even if you don't like cinnamon, you can have Fireball, and if you don't like cinnamon that much, it's not way too overpowering, but it is damn delicious. Commonly overshadowed by Jim, get your dog.
Yeah, I know. My dog is going nuts right now.
Rogue! It's very commonly overshadowed by Mad Elf, which is an amazing Christmas beer. And when people think Christmas beers, that's usually the number one. But with that, I'll say some of my beers, and maybe Jim can think of at least one more. But
no, I've got my last one.
Okay, good.
All right, and kind of an easy cop-out, but I'm going to go with Southern Tier Pumpkin because it's goddamn delicious. It's still probably my favorite pumpkin beer that I've had. It stays light, but it's still weirdly light even though it's a thick, heavy flavor. It's got a decent amount of alcohol, so no complaints there. It drinks really smooth. It's affordable, relatively, and it's available. So there's no real excuse to not go out and try it if you haven't yet.
Okay. So I had many beers like Mad Elf, like Weyerbacher Imperial Pumpkin, like what Jim just said, Southern Tier Pumpkin. Those were all beers I had before starting the site, and I really love them, and they're some of my absolute favorites, but I wanted to stick to just ones that the site kind of opened me up to. So the first one, it was the Lancaster Double Chocolate Milk Stout. Now, Lancaster Brewing, semi-local to Jim and I, tried a lot of their beers, but this one is by far, in my opinion, the best they have. Talking with one of the brewers there, he said, yeah, it usually ends up being people's favorite, and it's for good reason. A lot of beers tend to try and imitate that chocolate flavor, and you either get a kind of coffee mix or something a little too cocoa-y, which can kind of come off as bitter. This just emulates chocolate in a way that it stays really sweet and never adds that bitterness, and it doesn't have that fake taste that some beers have with like a chemical flavoring to it. So it's definitely one of the reasons why I like it, because I love me some chocolate beers, but that one's the best. The next one is the Saucony Creek Maple Mistress Imperial Pumpkin Ale. That's like a 9 or 10% pumpkin, but
That's a good one.
Holy hell. Not only do you got your typical imperial pumpkin flavoring with stout, you have maple syrup kind of in there, and it does not overpower. It's not too sugary, which still amazes the shit out of me. And honestly, when I think winter, not necessarily full pumpkin beers, and it's the start of the football season, my little tradition now is to go out and get a 4-pack. I will warn, it's expensive, but it's really, really worth it if you can find it. The next two, I'll say, are my kind of now go-to just drinking beer, if I can find some. And the first
Keystone
Light. Damn it, Jim. The first would actually be the Weyerbacher Merry Monks. Now, this is a triple, and it's at least 9%, if not 10 or 11. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. Really, really strong, really boozy, but there's something about that beer that I never get tired of. And you can only buy it. I may be speaking out of turn here, but I'm pretty sure you can only get it in the big bottles. And it's a sipping beer, so you're not going to need to buy a whole bunch, but you will get plenty drunk off of it. So don't try and overindulge in that. And for those of you who don't like anything too boozy, stay away.
Merry Monk is a hangover waiting to happen if you have too much of it.
Absolutely. And then actually this brown sugar, as soon as it is available, I get a bunch of it, as I mentioned earlier, and I can drink a lot of these, even though it is 9%. Never got that bad of a hangover, and it has tons of great flavor. The last beer I do want to mention is Dogfish Head Positive Contact. Now, for those of you who've probably seen our overrated, underrated, we talked about Dogfish Head Brewery. Very popular on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, I'm not even sure if they distribute out there, but they're kind of the kings of craft out here on the East Coast. And all their beers, usually, you read the label and you're like, holy shit, there's a million flavors. Then you have it and you're like, oh no, it's hop with the scent of some of those flavors. Or, it's this or that. And they have some flagship beers that are amazing, like the 90-minute IPA and their Namaste. But a lot of their other beers tend to not really deliver on the flavor, except for their Positive Contact. It's a wit beer that's made with cayenne, apples, and cilantro. I know it's a super weird sounding beer, but like any wit beer, there's a lot of citrus in it. Excuse me. And it's actually perfect for the summer. I can't describe it in flavors because none of those flavors I just mentioned really come through, but somehow they combine to just make it really palatable and just like drinks really easily. My biggest complaint, it was retired for a while, and now I think it's back into rotation, and it's hard as shit to find. But when I can find it, I always pick up a bottle, because that's just a damn good beer for me.
Actually sounds good, because I tend to love wit and wheat beers, so
yeah.
I'm going to have to give that a shot. Bri, buy me some.
Jim, I bought you your Dissident.
Bri, buy me more beer.
Damn it. So yeah, it's a great topic. I mean, Jim and I think we could have a ton of different, just like anything, it's hard to say what your favorite is in anything. But it's a good question, and
definitely.
We definitely thank you, and chances are, the more beers we try, the more that answer is going to change.
Yeah, we might revisit that question, actually.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so sticking with the Q&As,